What's up, everybody?
What's up, everybody? Sean here with another live Live to Roll. We have a great show for you today. Talking to one of our good friends, Lenora, from who I've known from the Triumph Foundation and the community here. But we'll go ahead and get into some quick intros and then let her introduce herself and talk to her about some of her story and what a good story it is. So, yeah, I'm Sean. I'm a C5, C6 quadriplegic from a snowboarding accident 22 years ago now. Bobby, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'm Bobby Rohan, C5, C6 is right with Sean from a bicycle accident 37 years ago now. And our good friend now, Lenora, who I've known for
Hi.
a while and get to work with her on kind of a little basis, a little project we have. And it was the best decision I had to say who could help me out and help take over Lenora. So Lenora was helping out so much. She's always like, "Yes, I got you," and I was so happy to find you and get you more involved. So if you don't like it, sorry, don't blame me. It's not my fault. I played with it. I was young. I needed the money. Whatever excuse. But go ahead, Lenora.
No, I enjoy it actually. Okay, I'm Lenora. I'm T11, T12 incomplete from a botched surgery in 2013. So, what is that, 13 years? 14? I don't know. Who's counting anymore? I don't know. And yeah, I'm super happy to be here. And I met both of you through Triumph, which is phenomenal. And no, Bobby, I love doing everything that you make me do.
Make me do
I
it.
like how you make me do.
I'm just kidding. I'm joking. No, absolutely.
Yeah. Right now, it's great to have you. So
So,
how crazy and uh, life can be, and I'm sure you've gone through this, and more eager to find out about your story. We know each other. Sean and I know you from hanging out at events, but don't know. Like, tell us the story. Start from the beginning. I mean, like you said, 13 with a maybe carry the one or minus one or plus, and
yeah,
maybe there's a pie in there. I don't know, but tell us a little bit
could
about
be.
your story and maybe before all this came down.
Well, I worked in the restaurant business for 27-ish years. I started having like extreme back pain into my heel like around 2010, 11. So I went through all the proper channels for that, saw a chiropractor. They told me it was plantar fasciitis. Then I ended up at an orthopedic surgeon and we did all of the shots and the physical therapy. And he's finally gave up and said, you need to go see a neurologist. So I'm handling that and then trying to further my career by going into management and doing all these things to try to get off my feet as much, or being a server in a restaurant when you're a little long in the tooth is kind of hard on your body. Um, so I did. I sought out a neurologist that was trusted here in the Antelope Valley, and a lot of people referred them to me. And he said right away, hey, you have a degenerative disc disease, which we most of us do, but my discs were basically bone on bone at that point. He said we can do a disc replacement, no problem. You should be back to work in about 6 weeks. Okay. So we went through all the insurance and stuff. I did my due diligence. I looked this guy up. There was nothing on the board. Everyone spoke super highly of him. All of my nurses, my friends that were in the medical business. My mom actually had worked, and I worked for the same neuroscience office when I was 15. So they've been in the Antelope Valley for a really long time. So then I had the surgery. When I walked in super excited, done with this pain. And when I woke up from the surgery, I it was really weird. I couldn't move. I had this super intense nerve pain that I've never felt before in my life. And he came in and I said, "Hey, this is what's happening to me. I don't know. I don't know what's going on." "Oh, it's probably the anesthesia. It's the epidural." And then I noticed that I couldn't see straight. And when they tried to lift me up, my head like exploded with the worst pain that I could ever imagine. Like someone cracked me over the head with a baseball bat. And so they immediately put me down. About 24 hours later, it was getting worse. And so they did some CAT scans. And he said, "Well, we found a brain bleed. So you had a spinal stroke." And I'm like, "Okay." And then they did an MRI. And he comes back 36 hours after the initial surgery and says, "Hey, we got to take you back in. We found a spinal cord, a fluid leak." Okay. So they took me in and he took out the cage and decompressed my spine and fixed the leak. But what I didn't know is that he had put in a broken cage to begin with, and he's the one that tore the dura, and he was aware of it at the time but didn't do anything to fix it until he took me back in a second time, at which point he plastered it and left debris floating around in my spinal fluid, put a J drain in to catch it, and that
This
was
is
that. I
the
was in the hospital.
that was the second time when whatever he left. You were saying,
Yeah. So
yeah.
the first surgery, he said everything was fine. And then the second time, he opened me up and took the broken cage out, decompressed the spine, and then, fixed the leak. So then I'm closed up. He takes me back. What I didn't realize is that the base of my brain had hit the base of my skull. And that's what was causing the brain bleed because the fluid had leaked all out. So there's nothing holding the brain up. So I couldn't see straight. My eyes were like crossed. I was having spinal headaches, um, and no one was saying anything. No one was saying, "Hey, you had a spinal cord leak, a fluid leak."
Mm.
So he, I found out all of this after, like a year after, right? He kept a set of records for the hospital saying that there were no incidences, everything went as planned. And then for himself, he had records that said what he did. I nicked the dura, which is allowed, right? You're allowed to nick the dura. That's part of, allowable things to happen in surgery, but you fix it right away. So basically, after 36 hours, it's kind of like the equivalent of throwing your phone in a Coca Cola for 10 minutes, pulling it out, and whatever you get, you get, you know? So after 7 days in the hospital, he sent me to Ballard Rehab. This was before they were really part of, Triumph, is from what I understand. But I had no diagnosis. There was no spinal cord injury diagnosis. It was just, "Hey, you're recovering from surgery." Okay. So I didn't get the valuable rehab that I needed at that point. Um, they didn't teach me how to cath. They didn't teach me about bowel programs. They didn't teach me how to transfer on my own, how to live on my own. They transferred me to this room a couple of days, a week or so before I was discharged and said, "Here, this is kind of like to simulate your house." Okay. I'm in a huge hospital wheelchair. Nobody came to measure me for a chair. Nobody came to talk to me about physical therapy or what my life was like, how to shower, things like that. So I really was kind of didn't know what to do. They sent me home. I was in this huge hospital chair that couldn't even get through my front door. Luckily for me, I was able to stand with a walker and have somebody lift my leg up to help me in. And then they folded the chair up and brought it in. Um, but navigating the whole system was just really difficult, because I didn't have that. Here's a durable medical equipment. I had to reach out to people on my own. And I went with somebody that I never should have gone with. So my first chair was just really horrible. I didn't know anything about it, you
Yeah.
know?
Really
So
surprised that Ballard didn't, uh, I don't know, do a little better job. I mean, they know the spinal cord, and things like this happen. I'm not saying it's Ballard's
right.
fault or per se, and maybe they didn't even have it diagnosed. Maybe just, she just needs to heal and she'll be back on her feet. Who knows what
Hmm.
the note said? Maybe you know now, but it just seems like um, something else should have been done differently. Obviously,
I
and you're like, yeah, right. I know. That's what I'm telling
Definitely
you.
seems.
I agree. And I hear people coming out of Ballard now, and it's really great. But I absolutely believe that because there was no diagnosis or no conversation, I guess, about what had really happened, because he couldn't admit it at the time.
Yeah.
And when I would tell people what I thought to know, the nurses and the CNAs kept asking me, "Well, are you going to sue?" Why would I sue? I had a spinal stroke. What? I don't understand. What do you know that I don't? So it wasn't until
Right.
6 months after my surgery that I got any kind of inkling that something wasn't adding up right. You know, and I went to my primary care after my latest CT scans, and he's like, I'm no neurosurgeon, but I think you need a second opinion. Okay, all right. So I called Cedar Sinai and I got in with my current physician now, and he said that's absolutely not what happened to you. I can tell just by the scans that's not what happened to you.
Wow.
So then I reached out to a lawyer, um, an attorney, a couple months after that, and we started the ball rolling because, yeah, that's
Yeah, that's so he didn't even tell you like he just basically tried to put everything on the spinal stroke, like any pain, any like numbness, paralysis, anything like that you were feeling having, just said it was all because of you had a spinal stroke during the procedure.
right.
You
The
would.
man he had me on so much medication, like 2,000 milligrams of gabapentin a day. He gave me morphine. He gave me, any kind of pain pill you could have. I had it to where his office called me and said, "Hey, you have too much. You need to bring it back in." Like, well, I'm not the one prescribing it. I don't know, so like it was crazy. And then I ended up with like this bubble on the outside of my scar. So I went in to see him. He's like, "Oh, it's spinal cord fluid, spinal cord fluid. It happens sometimes. It gets trapped. Let me just, take it out." And, he's behind me. So I'm thinking he's taking all the precautions. Well, he sticks the needle in and he gets it out. And then I turn around and I see him just dump it in the trash can. He doesn't have gloves on or anything. Like, whoa. Okay. So then I
Wow.
told him, I said, "This nerve pain is insane. Like, I am going to jump out of my skin." He said, "Well, the only other thing I could do is, sever your spinal cord for you." And I never went back. I looked at my husband like, "What is happening right now? Like, that's not what I actually said, like
Yeah,
WTF."
Oh,
I'm
he
sure there was
wanted.
more explicit.
He
Yeah,
actually
Yeah.
he,
And so
he
we
wanted you
left.
to
I
have
never saw
that.
him again.
Yeah, he
Never saw
wanted
him
you to
again.
have. So
Yeah.
he wanted you to have that so he can get on record that she's paralyzed because that's what she asked for because there was some pain. There should,
Right.
yeah, I mean, yeah, everybody's in a little pain, but but she asked for it. I
Hmm.
know that's what would have happened. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's kind
So,
of understandable, from what they got from the doctor and that rehab wasn't able to handle you correctly because we'd probably just saying, should be back on her feet in no time. And
right.
if
And I was
it
still
was,
dealing with spinal cord, with spinal headaches. So every time they lifted me up, for like the first 2 weeks I was there, I couldn't even move. And then physical therapy would come in and say, "Hey, if you're not progressing, you can't stay here." And I'm like, "Send me home then. Send me to a nursing facility. I don't care. But you guys are trying to make me get up. I have no bladder function. I have no bowel function. And you guys are treating me like I'm doing this on purpose because I don't want to work." That's how I felt. Like they thought I was lazy and I didn't want to do anything. But I was
mhm,
dealing with all of these things in addition to, what we all go through when we wake up and we're paralyzed or we have this thing like, whoa, what is going on? Couldn't wrap my head around it, you know? And so once I got the diagnosis that I needed and a doctor to go in and revise and, kind of help fix things, he was completely honest with me saying that there's really nothing that I can do to make it, to find out what exactly he did, because it's a short in your system. It's like, you can continue working. I don't think that you're ever going to be the way you were before. You're never going to walk, unassisted. And he didn't tell me that I couldn't walk or that I couldn't have this, but he said, your bowels are never going to be, normal. You're never going to have bladder function. You're always going to have these issues. So once I knew that, then I knew that I could control it again. I can take my life back.
So what did he repair? The new surgeon or the one you are seeing now, neurologist?
Yeah. Dr. Rasuli, he is a wonderful person. He took out all of the hardware. He put in 3 new screws that were not broken and whatever. He debrided everything because he said there was still stuff floating around. And he straightened, my spine was kind of crooked like Jenga. So he straightened it, put the pins in, and then debrided, whatever was left floating around. Then he let me heal for a week, went back in to do kind of exploratory to find out where the footprint was. And he's like, I can't, the damage is so weird, extensive. He's like, you're lucky you didn't go higher. So I don't know.
Yeah, with swelling, because a
Yeah.
lot of injuries could be higher than the actual break because of the swelling that can cause more damage going up. Um,
Right.
so pain now, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. That's,
Better?
Um, Yeah, I mean, the nerve pain is controllable now. My feet are always buzzing, right? And I don't take any medications or anything for it anymore. I think the worst time is that half hour in between when you lay down at night and then you finally fall asleep. Um, I do have like these really deep, they feel like they're in my bones spasms every now and then,
mm,
but there's nothing that touches it. So I just have to kind of work through it. But having the degenerative disc disease, I now have my L3 and L4 are asymmetrically, sorry, I can't talk, collapsed. And so they're bone on bone. I have a spinal cord stimulator that has really helped me with pain, but it's getting worse just from sitting. And so I am looking at another, surgery, but also too up here in my C3, the disc is collapsing as well. So I'm noticing that I'm getting, my hands are numb all the time. I can't, really twist things open, and um, I'll just be lifting something up and my hands will stop working and I'll have to drop it, whatever. But so that's going to have to be fixed too. So I'm looking at a couple more spinal surgeries, which I'm okay with if it fixes it. But
right.
I do, I have this deep distrust for medical providers now.
I
Well,
can see.
So
yeah, no, I would
pain
imagine too.
is
I,
yeah, pain is just something that I have to live with, and some days is worse than others. And, I take some ibuprofen and try to move through my day, but it wears down on you, and you get to a point where you just don't want to function anymore.
yeah.
Um, your story, my pain level went from probably a 6 when we started the show. It is at an all-time 12 right now. It is just hearing
Oh,
the
I'm
story.
sorry.
Well, it's not your fault. I mean, but that I can go, and you know me, Lenora. I ran so many support groups,
I
and
know.
every time the pain conversation would come up, I just in my back of my mind, I'm like, ah, crap, here we go. So it's not your fault. Not your fault. But it's just one of those things. I think you had a question, Sean.
Trying to think of which I had a couple from before. I was just, I know, like, just because that story is just so crazy to me, and I find it just so wild. But one thing I was going to say is, at least for the upcoming surgeries, at least you have maybe a little bit of confidence in your current neurologist and doctor. It seems like he really helped and corrected and stuff. But my thought too was just the fact that the first one left you like your spine wasn't even straight. It was still misaligned. It still had all
Yep.
the like that just it's just I don't know. It's hard for me to wrap my thoughts around the fact that there are like doctors out there that practice like that, and like and now, like you said, you looked him up and tried to check out his record and stuff before you had the surgery and stuff. But now you've now been able to find out that no, you aren't the only person this has happened to. He's done this to several people, and
Right.
he's just really just like that the whole like the whole thing of it just it makes no sense to me how somebody like that would be able to practice medicine anywhere in the country, like any like and California. It's like it's so wild to me. And so
It
yeah,
is wild. It is wild, yeah. The LA Times actually reached out to me because they were doing a story on doctors that had their license revoked and stayed multiple times. And after my surgery, then the medical board put on his license that he operated on the wrong side of the brain. Okay. And that happened in like 2010, 2011. So it took that long for it to be on there. So
It's crazy.
we settled our case in 2017. They revoked and stayed his license 3 times between 2017 and 2022.
Mm-mm.
3 times.
yeah, like how it can be revoked, but then the medical board just is like, no, it's fine. Just let him stay. Like,
Yeah, he didn't kill anybody, right? He didn't kill anybody. So, at the time when he relinquished his license, he had 22 cases against him. And I get it. People sue their doctors. You're going to have malpractice cases. However, my current surgeon told me, he said, I've had one malpractice case in the span of my entire career, and it was dismissed because it was not, it didn't happen. And so when I went and I looked at him, and he was correct. The person was mad at the outcome, and she's, was like, there was a lot going on, and so it was dismissed before it even got to a point. But every doctor is going to have somebody mad and, oh, well, I'm going to take you to court or whatever. And usually they're dismissed right away. But to have, I don't know, I think there was 14 cases in a span of 3 years where he settled his cases. He settled them. That's a red flag to me.
yeah,
So, and anything over $30,000, they have to report it. The board has to report it. And they weren't.
wow, that is
Crazy. And you know what's there's a bunch of crazy things. First, just in listening to your story, and I'm sure you can answer these, but how many people you heard that he was great before you went in for this surgery? Oh, he's great. I did great job with me. It is one, but two. It's so funny. I've had a couple of procedures and surgeries. There is a lot of people in the surgery room,
Mm-hmm.
and you just sometimes like nobody else can report and that's how high doctors are regarded. And I mean, if you ever remember I forget the name of the movie, so help me out there, but Alec Baldwin was a doctor, and he goes, when you're
Dr.
on that,
Death. Mm-hmm.
and I am God, when he says that, it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah, they.
it's just weird how nobody else in the surgery room could be like, excuse me, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know.
in
It just
the
seems weird to me sometimes.
the Antelope Valley is relatively small, okay, and so we have 2 hospitals in our medical community. They're called the Big Boys Club. So any doctor who's been here for more than 30, 40, 50 years, they have this little club where they're together, right? As a patient, you can be blackballed from their offices. It's crazy. But there are 5 doctors that work in AV neuroscience. Dr. Farouk, I'm going to say the name because I'm not afraid of them. I don't care. He's part of the medical board at Antelope Valley Hospital. And then there are 3 other doctors that I've never met. They are all culpable in my opinion. They
uh,
share the same office. They know what's happening. You employ this man. You know what's happening with this man, but you continue. to allow him to practice. Even after he lost rights at both hospitals, he was still allowed to practice in the office and in the surgery centers. And then that's where I was going after next, was the surgery centers. Um, I had him dropped from Blue Cross Blue Shield. I had him dropped from Aetna. Like, I was on his butt so hard that I was going to make sure that he lost his home. I wanted his wife to leave him. Like, I was so angry. I can't even tell you the things, like fleas on fleas on fleas is what I wanted for this man. That's The anger's gone somewhat now, but that was what propelled me to find as many people as possible that got hurt by him. And I had people reaching out to me. You know, I was on, I searched his name every day and all the medical sites that say, oh, he's a great doctor and he fixed me. I'm calling him out because those were people who worked in his office. And they were, and they pay for those. The doctors pay for these ratings. So that's what I was doing with my spare time. And so when I got the call last year that he surrendered his license, I'm like, that's fantastic. But it's not good enough because he could go to Texas now and practice if he wanted to. California, he can't, but he can practice in any other state.
Wow, yeah, that's still that's just mind-boggling to me that is
It's,
like
yeah.
how things seem to work, or like
You
and I
would
know,
think,
like I've heard about kind of stuff like that, like you said, like that doctors club thing, like where they're just, it's kind of like they know they're doing wrong, but I don't understand how they would just be culpable. Like it's like, yeah, it's fine. Like he's doing his best. Like or like I don't understand.
Mm-mm.
It's just
My primary care physician that told me I needed to seek a second opinion is friends with this doctor. And so I'm
oh,
really even surprised that he said anything, but we had to treat him as a hostile witness when we were trying to call him for the lawsuit because he refused to testify. So we were getting ready to call him as a witness. We were a week away from a trial when Dr. Misra, when his expert witness decided to say, "Hey, I can't support you because what you did to her was dirty. Like this is not good." So once he heard that, he's like, "Let's just settle." So, my lawyer's like, "We can take this all the way if you want." I'm like, "No, I'd rather settle. It's fine, because I'm going to get less in the end." But, and I knew that any amount that I accepted was going to go straight to the board and they would have to open an investigation. So
yeah.
that's
And
what I was hoping for.
right.
in a way, going through a trial, it's got to be the most emotional. It's not worth it at the end of the day. I mean, it's worth it maybe, for, to get your justice against him, but it's not, money, it doesn't replace anything. It doesn't replace actually even going through that portion. Um, it's despicable when I hear people trying to sue for little stuff. Like one time, this lady hit me and then tried to sue me for her deductible because her insurance and my insurance said it was her fault, but she's still trying to sue me because of her insurance deductible. And it's like, for what? What are you really getting out of this? It was like more time against us, and you're not gonna. She lost, but that's small claims. That was small claims, but you
Yeah.
know, most of your money went towards probably some of the doctor's bills that weren't covered, and
Hmm.
lawyer. You don't get anything. You can hear,
No.
oh, I won $1 million. You don't get a million.
And that's
Yeah,
nothing when
you
your entire your career is completely gone. Like,
Yeah,
I'm never going to be a restaurant manager again. Like, I'm never going to do that again. There's just no, I don't have it in me to fight restaurants to make it accessible for me, right?
right.
Because that's what it is. It's a fight. And after the year was, my employer said, "Hey, if you can't come back to us in the good capacity, we have to let you go or you have to resign." I chose to resign because then I would get all the stuff that I put into it. But that destroyed me because that was like my life. I spent 16 hours a day sometimes in that place,
wow.
and that's where my life was for like the last 27 years.
Wow.
So yeah, it was kind of devastating to wake up and be like, well, now what? Now what do I do? I can only make so much jam and I can only make so much bread. Like, I
So,
don't want to work for a call center. That's just not what I want to do with my life. And now I'm at a later age. I'm closer to 50. I was closer to 50 than I was 40. And I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. So, and then the grandkids started popping out, and I'm like, oh, well, here we go. There's this my life calling now.
There you go.
yeah, now you got that. That's what I was gonna ask, and I know the grandkids is mainly a lot of it now, but I was gonna say, so what do you do now that? Because I know for probably a lot of those first years was just fighting that fight, and now that you're kind
Oh,
of
yeah,
now that
yeah,
that is a little bit behind you, I'm sure that you're still advocating and doing a lot of stuff like still within that. But what else are you doing now to occupy, your time and mental health? It's like kind of things that
yeah.
keep you sane and going.
Well, we've been raising my 11-year-old granddaughter since she was 2 or 3. So we've always had her. So that put me back in the mom business. Now I watch my 18-month-old granddaughter too while her parents work. So I spend my time in my garden, trying desperately to keep it alive. I spend a lot of time trying to shoot squirrels out of it. you know, Gardening, and I'm trying to make sourdough bread. I'm trying to make jam. I do things for Triumph to keep me busy. A lot's changed. I used to be an avid reader. I just can't focus anymore on that. So that's kind of been taken away a little
Yeah,
bit. I still try, but I can't focus on that anymore. Exercise is kind of a hard thing because I can work out and then I'm down for 3 days. And so I have to kind of decide what days I'm okay to be down and what days I can't,
Yeah.
yeah, just my family has really kept me together. And we like to go to Santa Barbara, or we take the kids to the zoo, things like that. So that's really how I keep
yeah.
my wits about me, is running the
You,
house.
you said something interesting with that. Can't concentrate on reading anymore like you used to. Is that all from that? From
The
the
brain
food
bleed.
and the brain bleed and the
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
When
so
I
what?
came home, I had to train my eyes. So I wore an eye patch on both sides for months, train my eyes to go back. And I still notice that, this side of my face is kind of droopy a little. My speech was really slow when I came out. I had to stop and think about what I had to say, and then that wasn't exactly what I wanted to say. So I've kind of gotten that back, but I still find myself struggling to find the word that I need, or I have to stop and I'm staring off into space. I have to think about what I'm saying before I can articulate it. And so reading for me is kind of distracting, and I don't know, I just can't focus on it anymore, which is kind
Uh,
of sad. But
I,
and
I
audiobooks drive me insane because
Okay. No.
I can't stand some people's voices sometimes. So
you
I'm
get
like, it has to.
you get a good 20 minutes before, and I'm auto book too, and review it, definitely review. And I have some authors that I fell in love with or who read it, and then I go find every book they've read so I can be
Yeah.
like okay with them. I know you're a pain. Yeah. So did you have the stroke to the brain? They call it that, a stroke
There,
to the brain.
there was no stroke. I
Okay.
had a brain
There wa-
bleed. I had a brain bleed. That's just what he said. There was no stroke. I had a brain bleed from the lack of spinal cord fluid holding my brain up.
Yeah.
And they said that, everything should come back to normal, but there may be residual things happening. And so, in my professional opinion of myself, these are the things that I struggle with afterwards. And a neurologist has said, "Oh, your brain's fine. You're good. There's no reason why you can't do this and this and this." Okay, great. Thank you. But I know how I was before, and I know how I am now. And couple that with aging, it's just something that happens, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. it is almost like a stroke to the brain. You have everything that my wife is going through. Um, Eye
Yeah.
patch to the concentration level, can't do the reading. So yeah, it seems like a lot. That's why I asked you, because she had the stroke to the brain. um, Big question.
Yeah.
Let's say you meet somebody, a friend of a friend, and they ask you, hey, I'm about to have some type of surgery and it's around that spine area. What would you tell them?
I would tell them to do some serious research on their physician. I would
Mm,
tell them to get at least two or three opinions. I would tell them not to have it done at AV Hospital or any doctor in town. I would tell them to travel to UCLA or USC or to, Cedar Sinai, anywhere, because I know a lot of people have an insurance that maybe doesn't cover certain, specialties, but there's got to be a better selection than there is here in the Antelope Valley. So I would do my surgery over a million times, but I would have chosen wiser.
yeah.
So yeah, I would tell them to do their due diligence. Look at the board, look them up in the county that they live in. You can look at your court records. LA County, it costs $1. You can see how many cases they have. You can read through the cases. Don't depend on Google for the reviews because they're not accurate. Don't even look at Yelp; they're not accurate. And then what I did too afterwards is I started reaching out to people who settled their case. And I said, hey, who referred you to them? Well, doctors are referring them. My own primary care physician that I saw afterwards, I said, I need a neurologist, referred me back to him. And I was like, okay, I'll see you later. I did. Got my stuff and I left. I didn't even say goodbye. I'm like, I'm done. So I don't know how to fix that system. You know, I don't know how to fix that system, but I would absolutely say to outweigh your options. If physical therapy can help, do it. But if surgery is a necessity, then absolutely do your research.
Yeah. And I agree for you. Definitely, it seems like would want to get at least a second opinion on something like
Yeah.
that. You will want to see at least a second doctor to consult on that.
Because look,
But
this guy was very, very cool. He was so nice. His bedside manner was awesome. I was like, I love this guy. I do. I did. I love this guy. He gave me his personal number. He's like, I'm going to treat you like I'm family. Now, if a doctor tells me that, that's an immediate red flag. I'm like, I don't want to be treated like your family. Because am I the mother-in-law? Like, what are you treating me like? I don't understand like that now anymore. I definitely don't tolerate anything from doctors now, and I don't take they're not the end all be all, for me, anyways. But yeah, a lot of research needs to happen,
Yeah, good,
and I'm not
good.
afraid to fire a doctor.
that's a good one too, I think. Yeah, don't be afraid to fire your doctor to be a like yeah, that's one thing that I recently went through this couple years ago with my urologist that I had been seeing for a long time. And she's a urologist for Northridge Hospital, does spinal cord injury, like that's what their office is like attached to the hospital. Everybody goes to her, Dr. Klein, like in the same office. There's two doctors in the office, everybody sees them. And so that's what I thought was great. And I just kept noticing little things. And like one of the main things for me was the Botox injections in the bladder. Like that works for so many people and it's great for so many people. But for me, it actually, um, the second time she did it, she increased the thing to like doubled the dose she did the first time. And it somehow like spread through my system and it made my biceps and shoulders, the only muscles that really work, weakened, and I couldn't transfer myself for 6 months. Like I lost the ability to transfer for 6 full months. I
Wow.
didn't have the strength. I could barely push my chair, so I couldn't. I had to have my brother come live with me for those months because I was living alone and I couldn't get in and out of bed. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do any of it. And so I told the doctor that, and we stopped doing it. But every time I would go visit, she would be like, "So you want to try Botox again? Like you want?" And like the last time I went to see her was with Leah, and we went in there, and like I had, and I specified in the, no, I don't want to do Botox, but I had to do a cystoscopy, So we scheduled the cystoscopy, went in, and while they're prepping me for the cystoscopy, because I had to like go under, I had to be put under because of my AD. I get like they actually have to put me under to do the cystoscopy. Um, and while I'm in there and about to get put under, she again floats. You don't want to do the Botox when we're in there, and like Leah and I both like a little like I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
After
like
that, I did the cystoscopy with her. Like I was already I had gotten poked like 20 times by trying to get an IV in my arm, and I was so we did it, but I never went back to that doctor. I found a
yeah, no.
urologist afterwards. I was just like, I'm like, it just was
So,
that stuff where they're clearly not listening to what you're saying.
Right.
They're not even
Right.
taking notes. They're not. Nothing is going in.
which
So
is, which is a moneymaker for them because I'm sorry, Sean, I do not understand why somebody with a suprapubic has to have Botox. We want that urine not to stay in there. We want it to, to empty out. We don't need to hold it. That's what's so strange to me. And I think I know what she probably told you because I know you go through a lot of dysreflexia, but it seems like the reverse psychology of what's going on with our suprapubic.
well, that's ended up happening. I ended up going to the emergency room during that time too because my catheter blocked up. Like I got sediment and it like clogged my catheter. And typically when that would happen before, like yeah, I would get AD, but I would like my bladder would fire off and I would pee like naturally, like through my
Mm-hmm.
urethra. But it wouldn't do that because of the Botox. It wouldn't kick off. So I just got AD to the point where like I got completely red, blotchy. Like my blood pressure was like 240 over some like, and I'm usually at like 100 over 65, 70.
That's a good day.
Wow.
So like yeah, so like on a good day. So I was like 240 over like 180 or something crazy, and like I would think I was on the verge of stroking out, and I had to go to the emergency room. And the only thing they could do at that time was catheterize me, like and empty my bladder. And they just kept me there emptying my bladder all night because they didn't have the size catheter I needed. We had to wait till the next day so they could get it. So like it was a nightmare. So yeah, so like you said,
And
Bob, it wasn't a good
it
idea in
seems
the
so it seems so logical because the Botox was doing its thing.
it
I got a
was it was
hold
doing
of
the job.
urine here. I'm not gonna let it go. I'm gonna wait until it's full. And his bladder did not. He had had it so long that the bladder couldn't handle that. That Oh my god, that is so.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sorry, Sean. I
that's
know
that's
you
my
said that
that's my
story.
only like experience. But that was the one time where I was like, I think I have to fire the doctor. And now, and like hearing your story, I'm like, I'm definitely gonna be making sure to like pay attention because I'm gonna have to find now that we moved. I am gonna have to try to find maybe a new doctor out here, a primary care physician. Like, and I'm not sure if I'll switch urologist or if I'll go once a year. It's a 2 hour drive now. It will be for to get to that doctor, but I have been really happy with switching this last couple years now. So like,
I
I
don't even have a primary care physician anymore. I have my urologist, I have my spine guy and my pain guy. And now my OBGYN just went to a subscription base. So that made me really sad because I really liked her. But I think I might end up going with her PA because it's a lot cheaper. But I trust her implicitly. That's it. I can't find a primary care. If I get sick, which is not very often, I just go to urgent care, get the antibiotics I need, and go away.
And I think you're doing it right. I mean, what I have noticed with the shift of healthcare to Lenora, I do have what would be considered a primary, but it's just somebody to go in there to take my blood pressure, to give me a
Hmm.
little check, and to get one of the meds I need for my mood stabler. My
Hmm.
I don't my I always forget Prozac or something, whatever I'm
Yeah.
on. After just dealing with stress after
Yeah.
my heart thing, and it's helped so much that it keeps me like even keel. So I just go to him for that, and then um, I'm on home health, and it's so funny. Their requirement is I see him every other month, and I get on. He goes, "What are you here for?" I'm like, just because of home health. I like home health. I'm not getting rid of them. and they wonder why I'm still on it, but they give me all like, Medicare gives you 2 catheters a month. Home health,
Right.
home health. She goes, how many do you want? I'm like 12. She's like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're on home health. They don't have a limit when you're for Medicare when you're on home health. I'm like,
See,
never
that's
leave.
So I've
cool.
Eh,
been really lucky that we have insurance through my husband. He works for UBS, so we don't pay for our insurance, and it's really great insurance. But I've always been really appreciative of that, because I can see, my kid had Medi-Cal, and I see people struggling all the time. I give catheters away all the time to people who are short for a month. My urologist I see twice a year for Botox because the Botox works for me. But I self cath and I don't have any
yeah.
problems and issues. And but I use a Foley at night. I put a Foley in because I choose to sleep as opposed to having to get up 2 or 3 times a night or, having accidents. So I pay for the Foleys myself, and that is an extra expense. So I can't imagine having to buy your catheters, to use on a daily basis. If you're cathing 5 times a day, I don't have a super pube and I don't have, an indwelling. So, I just don't tell my urologist and he doesn't know. So
Well,
Yeah. I hear you.
that's it.
no,
I hear you.
you got to do what you got to do, what works for you. And if you're not having any health issues, that's understandable. But
No,
for any legal purposes, make sure you do consult your doctor.
I did consult him, but he said that the catheters that I would have to use, like it's either or. He can either give me
Yeah.
a script for the Foley or the self cath. So I was like, okay, great, thank you. And so we're there.
No, that's understandable because I couldn't imagine they could do both because yeah,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to get like you would have either an indwelling or be catheterized.
Or yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So that's just what I do and it works for me, but not everyone, like you said, for legal purposes, you should probably definitely consult a medical professional because I am not that.
yeah.
Mhm.
And that's what we've talked about stuff like that on the show plenty of times. We all do things sometimes that are maybe not the textbook way or whatever, but it works for us, and that's
Yeah.
what we're not doctors. We're just living with these things, and we're living through our experiences and what works for us.
Right.
And I think that's one thing we always say. For me, I use this,
Yeah.
and you and I sat in that quiz at our last training, our peer mentor training, and the one thing I always use as a peer mentor for me, this is what works for me. Now,
Yeah.
it might not work for you, and whatever works for me is might not work for Sean, or definitely might or could. You never know, but I just have to say, and he can tell me like, well, what you said is wrong. I said no. I said it works for me. And I
Right.
and I don't say try. I just said ask your doctor, and I think that's what we have to remember. A question I have, because of doing lots of support groups, and Sean and I, Sean one day he's on a snowboard and done, and with a done as a spinal cord injury, and myself on a bicycle down, you know, no longer. You're a little bit different. You didn't have something that like there's an accident or anything like that. What emotional aspect of that is with you compared to what probably Sean and I have?
In the beginning, it was definitely anger. Anger. I hold anger, but it's not because I'm paralyzed. It's not because of the way my body is right now. Like I'm dealing with that. Like you move on. Like you that there's no other choice for me. That's how I've always lived my life. Like suck it up, buttercup. Let's move on. You got things to do. But the anger motivated me so much.
Good.
And yeah, there's this like longing. I can't, it's like an identity crisis because for so long I identified myself as a working mother doing everything. And now I don't feel that. I know I'm running my household, but I need help. And it's really hard relinquishing that. So sometimes I feel like I'm not living up to what I'm supposed to be living up to. And then other days I'm like, what are you talking about? The things that you do, these people could not do. You know, I'm going to put you in a chair and I want you to do what I do on a daily basis and tell me if you can do it. And they tell me all the time, there's no way I could do what you do and make it look so easy. So I think for me, it's just keeping myself like, you're doing a great job. You're still worthy. You're still, I guess, providing, even though I'm not providing monetarily, I'm still providing. And so that was really hard thing to get through.
Sometimes, what I leaned on many years after my injury, and um, it's a song by Garth Brooks, is when I heard it, I lived this. Some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers. And look at the way things have happened for you, that now you get to be around your grandkids, and
Hmm.
here you are at home, being able to take part in their life instead of being swamped at work and not be there. Trust me, the pain is real, the agony of everything. um, we would change it, yes, but some of those things are like, wow, now I get to experience this and be around. For me, it's always around amazing people. To who would have thought, when I was, how old was I? 17, before my injury,
Yeah.
to say here many years later that one or two, and I hope 1,000 people, I've changed their life, for something better, and to think, because all of them have changed my life.
You're absolutely correct. And I am grateful that I get to do what I do, and I get to see my babies grow up, and I get to have a hand in that. It doesn't change the fact that I get pissed off if there's a Lego in the ground and I hit it and I don't stay in my chair, like, like I'm like, then you go all the way back, like, God, why did this happen? And what, just,
Damn, Newton, you proved it again. Stop. We get it.
but for the most part, I try to, keep a good face on. And sometimes it doesn't always happen. The family kind of backs off from me a little bit because they know that I'm like a dragon, and, but they're there for me.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I was
and
gonna ask.
triumph. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna ask, how was it for your family too? If, like, for your husband, for your kids and stuff, like when, because I mean, obviously they weren't expecting that either. They were expecting you were supposed to go in for surgery. It was gonna help. You're gonna be, feeling better, and then all of a
Right.
sudden, like they're like, everything changes for everybody.
Uh,
So,
it, it probably changed more for them than you in some ways, than
Yeah.
what
It changed more for them. My son was 12. He's my youngest when I was injured. And we had moved out of our home that we were renting, and we were moving in with my daughter because I was going through training for management, and I was gone for 16, 18 hours a day. So she was like taking my son to school, and she kind of was like, hey, just do this so you can study, you guys can live here, and then when you're done and after you have your surgery, because I knew I was going to have surgery and I knew that I was going to have to recover, then we were going to look for a house to buy. And then that turned into like living with her for 2 years, and that had to have been difficult with her. My
Mhm.
son was kind of like, he never really expressed it. He always put a brave face on, but I know it hurt him. I know that there were things that I wasn't able to do for him, that my daughter did for him. My husband has been solid throughout the whole thing. When I came home, I said, hey, if you want to go, if you want to leave, I will completely get it. I get it. And he was just kind of like, what are you talking about? Like, we're together. Like, this is it. I'm like, well, what if I can never, have sex again? Like, what if that's a reality? He's like, oh, yeah, I'm on medication. I'll just take more of it, whatever, because, we all have our health issues. He's like, it's not just about that. So So he's been rock solid throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
And, I lost a lot of friends. People just didn't come around anymore. They didn't call. You know, my best friend of 15 years, I had to terminate the relationship just because of the way she spoke to me. Because I'm not going to tolerate that. I really won't. But one
Yeah.
of my best friends was a quad, and he died 6 months before I was injured. And so being around him a lot, I kind of had a sense. I don't know how to put this into words. I had a sense of what he would go through. I did have to put it, I put him to bed a lot of the times and helped him with his bowel program. So I kind of had an inside view and just hanging around him.
Of
And
the of someone being paralyzed, and then was able to
correct.
kind of relate to it a little bit better. And
Right.
just real quick, where when I got injured, I don't know about you, Sean, but I thought you were born in a wheelchair. This is how naive I was. I didn't realize, we did so many stunts when I was a kid. You break your neck, you die. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know break your neck. And when they told me I had a broken neck, I was like, how did I live? you know.
Right.
Go ahead. So yeah. So you had a sense of what it was like.
Yeah, that is
A little
interesting.
bit, I mean, I could never truly say that, oh, I know how that feels, but it gave me more, empathy, and it put me in a position of like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I get that. And I had some knowledge too medically behind that. So when I went to see the urologist, like, or even when I was in Ballard, I said, hey, are you guys going to let me cath? Because are you going to teach me how to catheterize myself? No, you're doing that. You're voiding on your own.
Oh my god.
Okay, but I'm not voiding everything. This is why I'm on IV antibiotics the whole month I'm here because I have a UTI, right? Am I going to have a bowel program? No, you should be able to go. Well, I haven't had a bowel movement in 3 weeks, so you tell me what's happening. You're just plying me with all this stuff. Yeah, eventually it's going to have to come out, but that's not how I want to do this. So I would ask questions. They're like, no, 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 you're going to be able to do this. No, 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 you're going to be able to do that, do that. So it was mind boggling to me. It made me question, well, okay, how injured are you really? Maybe I'm not doing enough. What should I be doing,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
to further my progress? So
Oh, I
maybe I
can
am
totally
being
see
lazy.
that. Yeah, I can
Like
totally see that.
it played, yeah, it played with my mind a little bit. And I was probably 3 years into my injury before I actually got any real help and I started cathing myself.
Wow.
So yeah,
Like,
I struggled with UTIs. I struggled with my bowels,
were you wearing
the whole
briefs?
thing.
So
Oh
were you
yeah,
wearing
I was
briefs?
wearing, yeah, was wearing briefs. I was taking all the, like Miralax and this and that. I was either constipated or I couldn't leave the house,
Just
right?
yeah, having
Because I had,
accidents like
you
yeah.
go out to eat and I had an accident and I'm like, I don't know what to do now. It started to where I started looking for hospitals when we were traveling so that I could go in and clean up if I had to, or use a bathroom that I had to. I didn't have to know if the Taco Bell bathroom was accessible. I just went into an urgent care and, you know,
You
so,
needed to be on our show on Thursday, Lenora. We were talking about all
okay.
those horror stories. So, oh my
Yeah.
God, that is just crazy
So
that
when I
they
when I saw my urologist, I was like, "Hey, so is there any way I can cath myself?" Like he's like, "What do you mean? You're not cathing yourself?" No. Uh, Hold on. A nurse came in 5 seconds later. I had the prescription. I knew how to do it. Like, what was all the hullabaloo about? Like, I don't know. I don't understand.
Oh,
I didn't get it. And so from
and
that day on, my life got exponentially better, And then I learned a bowel program that works for me. And here I am. I didn't have any more accidents. And, you know,
yeah, no, that's incredible that they yeah, that's just really sad. And I know Ballard, like I ran the support group here for Triumph there for the couple years when I was first out here. Um, and it's an okay little rehab, but I don't think that they are quite like a spinal cord. They're not fully equipped to really handle like I don't think a lot of like real heavy spinal cord injury like stuff, and then them not even knowing or not being told that you were really a spinal cord injury or
right.
like the whole thing that just I think ended up for a bad combination of stuff, and which is but that's so 3 years late, that's incredible that it took that
It's a
long to
little
get.
little wild, so I mean, I keep moving and I keep doing everything that I need to do. And um, I haven't given up on any progress, because I do get a spotty feeling, like my entire backside, zero feeling, except for a quarter size. I have feeling. I came home, I couldn't take a shower without my compression socks on because the nerve pain is so bad. That's why I wear leggings. I can't wear jeans or anything that touch my skin. The wind blows and I'm like, you know. So
Yeah.
I have desensitized myself tremendously to where, I can actually take a shower now without compression socks on. I can feel hot and cold in some parts of my legs. Um, so you just have to keep using what you got, and hopefully I don't put a lot of faith in me walking normally, or things like that, how you always have in the back of your mind, well, maybe I'll walk again. I just live my life the way I'm going to live my life. I'm trying to take care of myself and my family, and this is how it has to be. I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah, no, I
giving
love
up
you.
hope. Yeah,
Um,
there's no
I don't
hope
know.
of that.
I don't know if you actually said the age, but Teresa was wondering your age when this all happened.
I was 43 when I had my surgery,
Okay.
and I'm 57 now. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And let
So
me tell you, aging with a spinal cord injury is no joke for a woman. There's no real, other than talking to other women, like I hit menopause, and my OBGYN at the time was like, oh, there's no way you can hit menopause. Well, what about this spinal cord injury? Like, wouldn't
Huh.
that throw you into it? Not to mention, I was 8 when I started my period. So, like, wouldn't it make sense that I'm starting earlier? He goes, no. Okay, well, I'll see you later. I'm going to find another doctor. Not that I wanted to hear no. I mean, I can hear no, but I needed a second opinion, right?
There
And
you
so I found my doctor and immediately got on progesterone and, hormone therapy. And I felt so much better, so much better, so um, just having that in the community would have been great. It would have been great.
go. Yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, not having that support and that anything in those first years and stuff is just, it had to be so hard. Making, just makes
And
things
that
more difficult.
and your story is very common that I hear with those surgeries that might either gone wrong or gone even right, and it was a risky surgery, and they kind of knew what was probably going to happen, but that incomplete sometimes, it can be torture on your body, like you said. Those skin issues of not being able to have water hit or the air or your pants. I get it, because I've heard it so many times. I luckily don't have
Hmm.
it, except in a weird spot in my on my bicep. Once in a while, it's just like, are you kidding me? But it is strange what I hear. My pain is different than that. I'd much rather have my pain than your pain when hearing some of
Oh,
these
I
stories.
think pain is all relative, right? We
Yeah.
all experience pain in different ways. Um, so I never discredit somebody else's pain. Oh, I stubbed my toe. Ooh, I remember what that feels like. Or, somebody's like, oh, I broke my foot once. I remember breaking my foot once. I get that. But yeah, people, they're like, oh my God, I would never take away from your pain. I know you're in so much pain all the time. But I'm not that kind of person. Like, I'm sure that your pain is hard, and dealing with spasms and skin breakdown. I don't have the skin breakdown issue. Um,
Hmm.
you know, I
Yeah,
have the issue with being incomplete is I still have some movement to my legs, right? I don't use hand controls to drive. The guy that came out to train me, he's like, I don't think you're ready for hand controls, because when I went to go brake, I immediately wanted to brake with my foot. And he's like, why don't you practice? And so physical therapists, and we practice my driving and stuff. I don't drive long distances because of my eyesight, and it's just safer for you, for everybody else on the road. But I can't wait for the day that my brain can finally say, "Hey, the hand controls are the way to go, buddy."
Yeah.
So, but my instinct is still to slam the brake on with
yeah,
my
get the
foot.
foot.
You know,
Right. In some
so
ways,
yeah.
still have that thought of, I I know this for a fact that when I hear my car rev to a certain, before the automatic kicks in, I still
Hmm.
want to reach my hand down. I still want
Yeah.
to shift my car because
Shit.
I didn't even drive a stick. I mean, I learned on a stick shift. I said I would never
Hmm.
not have it until my injury, obviously. But I still get these feelings like shift. I can't shift this stupid car, So
It's so bizarre what your body retains, right? Like that's what you want to do. You know, I can't drive, but you still want to make me drive a stick shift. You couldn't like give me some other muscle memory that would work better in my life.
um, we have. I want to wish Slycos a
Oh
good luck
yeah.
tomorrow on his colostomy surgery. So definitely please check back. Let us know if you have any questions afterwards for myself, or reach out to me on Instagram if you have any questions uh, post surgery, because I've been through it at SCI Quadfather. Yeah, good luck. That's awesome. Change
Yeah,
your life in a good way. It
yeah,
did
no,
for me.
I know. And that's what we are actually going to be. I know Leah and I were talking about. She was trying to help, or she was putting together a show with a couple people for doing a colostomy show. It's more of the information I know. So, sometime in the next month or two, I think we'll be trying to do that, including Ken Nelson, who's in the chat.
Mr. Colostomy Boy, I call him now.
But yeah, it's
And then and then we got a little shout out. Thank you for the donation.
yeah, Mo. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. All right, we're starting to get. We're a little bit past that. That was a easy, quick
Right.
conversation. Well, no, that's like your story is just so wild to hear, and like it's important for people to hear that kind of stuff. And honestly, like I think we
Sean, is this the first time we really had somebody to talk about? Like,
a
who do we have?
malpractice. This is the first time we've had something like this with like a
Yes,
big
you're
company.
our first. So, um, welcome to the club now, I guess.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, I mean, it's great. We've had so many topics, but sometimes when we think we've covered them all, we haven't. And so I'm glad Sean reached out to you and got you on here. So that was great.
And before we wrap up, Teresa just put in there she was 46 when she was injured. Would love to chat more. And she's local too, right? Is Teresa?
No, she's up in the Bay Area, but Lenora, I can get you her email, and then you guys can hook up uh, if you'd like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd love
Teresa.
it.
Yeah.
She's awesome too, and been really supportive. We appreciate Teresa's support recently too, or for a while now on the channel, and even helping with some topic ideas and things like that. Been messaging, so do appreciate that.
Yeah, I would love to. Love to.
And
It is a
Eric,
wild story, Eric. Thanks.
And Eric, I want to have you on to tell your story one of these days too, if you're ever up for it. Because Eric has a pretty wild survival story after injury
No,
of falling,
he's got a couple. He's got
just
a couple.
having
Hmm.
incredible survival story. So, and everything you had to go through. But yeah, if you're ever up for it, I still would love to have you on here. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and let's thank our sponsors, and then uh, Lenora, at the end, if you want, I want to let you kind of have the last thing, kind of any word of advice, anything you want to give, just for anybody watching that might have gone through something like you've gone through, or just um, or anything, just anything like that. But real quick, let's just thank our sponsors, mobility professionals and urology professionals. We do really appreciate their support. And mobility professionals is a DME. They're local to Southern California. So if you're anywhere in the Southern California area and you need a new wheelchair or standing frame, any larger equipment like that, give them a call. The information's all down below in the description. They'll help you out. Great supporters of the community. And then urology professionals is actually nationwide. So if you need catheter supplies anywhere in the country, they can ship them directly to your doorstep. And again, they'll help you take care of everything with insurance. great people, great supporters of the community, and they really do care about making sure you get the right equipment. And so we appreciate our sponsors, appreciate you guys all watching as well too. So thank you everybody for supporting. Um, and yeah, Lenora, so if you want to, oh, and sorry, real quick, Thursday, we actually have a bonus sort of show. We don't have the Wheel Girl chat right now, but we have Julianne, and I believe she has Allie, who also was a Miss
Oh,
Wheelchair California. And then still kind of getting a couple more people to talk about some of the stuff, the benefits and pitfalls of social media with disabilities. So that could be an interesting one on Thursday if you guys want to tune in on Thursday. We'll have that little bit of a sort of bonus show for you guys. And then, yeah, that's we'll be back again next Tuesday. So, Lenora, or go ahead, Bobby.
yep. All right. My advice is love yourself in your new body and learn to give yourself grace and patience and surround yourself with a community and people that love you back.
There you go.
That's it. Because you can
That
do
is
whatever you want to do.
well said. Well said. I love it. That was a
Yeah.
great out. I just want to say, Robbie, right with you. You and I are like literally back to back. So welcome. I don't believe I've seen you here, so come join us. We're twins almost. 1 year more than you.
I know how that is really wild. That injured at the same time and the same age about.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, and
Thank you.
Lenora, that
Thank you for watching. I see some people saying thank you, thank you, thank you for watching.
yeah,
Well, and really, thank you for your story, Lenora. Like we haven't had somebody at that type of caliber of the botched surgery and eye opener. And thank you for really, coming out and sharing your story. I'm so happy you were on today when Sean told me he reeled you in, and I
that
was like,
wasn't me.
yeah,
That was Leah. Leah, I can't take any credit for that. Leah,
okay. Probably, I should have known. No.
no,
It
because
was my pleasure.
she really liked talking to Lenora. Even if the first time that you guys met, I think at the sports festival or the expo, but whatever the first time I remember her saying, I really like the Lenora, like, so she really had and she had wanted to connect and get you on here. So, and then after we heard a little bit of your story, she was like, yeah, we definitely.
Yay!
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and telling your story, like Bobby said. And thank you everybody for watching. We do appreciate everybody's support. And yeah, we'll see you guys all soon. Live to roll, everybody.
Okay.
To
Bye
roll.
bye.